Welcome to the GameRamble video review for Intake, narrated by me, Darkcloud. As always, the full text version of this review can be found on the GameRamble website linked below. The TLDR is that Intake is a great retro-style arcade shooter that challenges players to blast luminescent balls using the correct colored shots. It's a deceptively simple title that can become very addictive after a few rounds. The inclusion of power-ups and special challenge levels every few rounds also keep the game unpredictable. It's a pity that the soundtrack only features 5 tunes, but the gameplay is solid, and chasing high scores is a real adrenaline rush. Gameplay receives a 9 out of 10. Intake is straightforward to play but very challenging and quite addictive. Graphics receives a 9 out of 10. The visuals for the game are relatively simple but very stylish. Sound receives a 9 out of 10. The soundtrack is great, but there are only 5 tunes. The overall score for Intake is 9 out of 10. And now for the full review. It's no secret that there are too many games out there that are bloated and weighed down with unnecessary elements. Typically, the only purpose of most of these bolted on elements is to tick a few more boxes on a list of features. This makes it all the more refreshing to uncover games that still offer a pure, simple yet entertaining experience. Intake is one of these titles, although at first glance it almost appears to be too simple. The developers describe Intake as the love child of Dr. Mario and Ikaruga, and while we agree we would include Missile Command in that mix too, it is in essence an arcade shooter where pulls rain down from the top of the screen and players have to blow them to bits before they reach the bottom. To make things a little more challenging, the pulls always come in 2 different colors, and to maintain a combo while shooting them, your cursor has to be the same color as the pull that you're targeting. Incidentally, the color of your cursor also designates the color of your shield at the bottom of the screen. Your shield absorbs all pulls of the same color, although they won't contribute to the amount required to complete the level. Intake obviously speeds things up the further you get in the game, but it also throws a few other curveballs at players. These come in the form of the challenge levels that pop up every few rounds. There are 4 of these in total, and they range from flooding your screen with pulls to throwing down fewer pulls than usual but at much higher velocity. Then there are the minefields, where monochrome pulls have to be avoided because if you shoot them, you get flashbanged. Finally, the reaction levels features exploding pulls for extra mayhem. Once these challenge levels are discovered in the main game, they can also be tackled in a separate game mode. Shooting luminescent pulls is fun, but along with the thrill of chasing a high score, you also want to earn milligrams to spend on the drug shop. These generally come from the tablets that appear between levels and from the bonus rounds after you lose your last life in an overdose. The drugstore features some nice goodies such as extra colors and additional music tracks, but the power-ups are the most useful. Once you purchase a power-up, they will begin appearing in the game, provided you equip them from the drugstore. The power-ups include lightning that can zap all the pulls on screen, slow motion to give you some breathing room while shooting pulls, and embiggen, which makes the pulls huge so that they're easier to hit. Be careful though, as some power-ups can work against you. For example, the last thing you want is gigantic pulls during a flood level. As you continue to earn more milligrams, you can use them to upgrade the power-ups further, but the prices quickly skyrocket. For visuals, Cypher Prime Studios has gone for a sensory overload look and feel. Intake opens with a classic "Winners don't use drugs" arcade screen, and from there on out it's a glowing neon assault in the eyes. This can make it difficult to see what's happening sometimes, but that's part of the challenge. It's really great to see that the game also features colorblind modes for players with deuteranopia, protanopia and tritanopia, which is something that's often overlooked in color-based games like this. In keeping with the whole arcade style of the game, it also uses a portrait resolution with letterboxes on the side. This makes sense because the game would have played differently if it had filled the entire screen. Intake does feature Gartner Vision, which adds some visual effects to the letterboxes, but generally all your attention will be focused on the action in the middle of the screen. Keeping with the whole retro style of the game and the drug theme, Intake features a dubstep soundtrack. Only 1 track is available initially, but 4 more can be unlocked from the drugstore. All 5 tracks sound really great, but we would have loved a few more. Intake does not offer an in-game way to play your own music, but as the volume and sound effects can be adjusted independently, playing your own songs in the background is easy. The controls are very straightforward, but this is definitely a game where you need quick reflexes to succeed. The movement of your cursor is handled via your mouse, but we found it easier to shoot and change colors using a keyboard. There's nothing preventing players from doing everything with the mouse though. It's also handy that the mouse speed can be adjusted in-game, so there's no need to mess around with your mouse's DPI settings. Intake is not an easy game, but it's very addictive and has that just one more go factor. Initially, players might struggle to last more than a few levels, but after a bit of practice and unlocking power-ups, it's easier to progress further. The game also sets checkpoints at level 25, 50 and 75, so once players reach these, they can be set as the new starting point for future playthroughs. Intake is undeniably an entertaining game, but the whole look and style might not be to everyone's liking. It's a pity that there's no demo available for it, as it's one of those games you need to experience for yourself to really understand how it plays. It should appeal to fans of old school arcade games, as well as anyone who can appreciate games that are simple to play but hard to master. Thanks for joining me for this Intake PC review. Remember to like, subscribe and share. Until next time.